This is Note Taking Guide 6.8 for Math 1. So we're going to talk about lines today, which is, yay, I'm glad we're out of the geometric shapes. I would much rather prefer to work with lines. So we're going to talk about today parallel and perpendicular lines. So I just want to remind you what that means. Parallel lines have the same slope. That means that they follow each other like this forever. They're never going to cross or intersect each other. They have the same slope. They're traveling at the same rise over run. Perpendicular lines, on the other hand, they intersect each other at a 90-degree angle. So they have the opposite reciprocal slope. So what does that mean? It means that if your slope is 1/2, the perpendicular slope would be -2/1 because it has to exactly undo everything about that original slope. So you have to flip that slope upside down and you have to change the sign on it. So we're going to look at these slopes here, and we're going to write the parallel slope and we're going to write the perpendicular slope. So if my slope is 2/3, my parallel slope is still going to be 2/3. But my perpendicular slope would be flip that sucker upside down and change the sign out in front. So a -3/2. All right, if my slope is a -4, that's really a -4/1, just so we're aware. So the slope stays the same for a parallel slope, but when we flip it, that 1 comes to be an important part, because when we flip it, we actually get 1 on the top, 4 on the bottom. Because it's already negative, we're going to change it to positive this time. So don't forget that those whole numbers on those slopes actually have 1s underneath them when it comes to rise over run. All right, this line has a slope of 8. I can tell because it's in slope y-intercept form. So the parallel slope is going to be 8. Remember, that is 8/1. So when I flip it upside down, it will be 1/8. And I need to change the sign on that for a -1/8. Okay, this next one not really in slope y-intercept form here, so it's going to take me just a second or a reminder to you that this has to be solved for y. So I would actually have to divide this entire equation through by 2 in order to get y by itself. So look what happens right here with my slope though. So that will be 4 divided by 2. 4 divided by 2 is actually 2. So my slope is 2. Flip that upside down and I get 1/2, change the sign in front of it, and I get a -1/2 for that perpendicular slope. All right, this is a y= line with no x value in it. So I want to remind you that when it's y=, you'd go down to -12 and it would be a horizontal slope. Now the dead giveaway was there was 0 x's in there, so that slope is actually going to be 0. The perpendicular slope to that then would be a vertical line. Does anybody remember what kind of slope vertical lines have? They actually have undefined slope. So the perpendicular line to that would have to be a vertical line, which would be undefined. So then that's the same thing opposite now on this problem. This one is a vertical line. It's an x= line at 7, so it's vertical, which means it has an undefined slope, which means the perpendicular slope to that would be a slope of 0. All right, so good reminder about what happens with our slopes. So now we're going to look at these lines and we're going to tell if they're parallel, perpendicular, or neither, which means we're taking a look at their slopes. Slopes are right here on this one, 8 and 8. That means these lines are parallel. Does anybody remember the symbol for parallel? Sometimes I like to just write the symbol, which is those two kind of diagonal lines going together like that. The formula for perpendicular is that upside down T. So let's see if we can use those formulas today, or those symbols today. All right, my slope here is 1/2. My slope here is -2. So I know they're not parallel because they're not the same. Did I take that first slope, flip it upside down, and change the sign on it? I did. So these are actually perpendicular. Okay. Next one, slope is 9, slope is 9. So these two are parallel. All right, here think about this. We have a y equals 8, so we're up here like this. We have a x equals negative 15, so we're over here like this. Those are going to form a right angle together, so these two are perpendicular. Alright, this last one is just hard to see the slope because they're not solved for y, so I got to solve them for y so that I can get the slope by itself. On this first one, I'd have to add that 3x over to the other side. So when I add that 3x over to the other side, I would actually end up with y equals 3x minus 7. So my slope on the first one is 3. On this next one, I got to get y by itself, so I'm going to have to divide everything by 3. So when I divide the 3y by 3, that's gone to just y. I'm going to divide the negative 9 by 3, and I get negative 3, and divide the 21 by 3 and get 7. So this is a slope of 3, this is a slope of negative 3. Those are not the same, they are not opposite reciprocals of each other, so these are neither parallel or perpendicular to each other. Alright, write an equation that passes through the point with the given slope. So we're going to just write our equation here to do that, and I'm just going to have to remind you how to do that. It's been lots of, actually I don't think we've done it yet this year in this class, so it's been a while probably since you've done this. So let me remind you how to do it. I like, my method of preference is to use the form y equals mx plus b. I just always, that's my favorite way to do it, because look what they gave me here. They gave me an x and a y, and they gave me an m. So if I know my y is 15, I know my slope is 3, and I know my x value is 9, all I have to do now is find my b value, and I can substitute back in my slope and my y-intercept, and I have my equation. So I'll go 15 equals 27 plus b. I just have to subtract that 27 to the other side, so 15 minus 27. And I get b equals negative 12. So my actual equation of my line is going to be y equals my slope, which is 3, and then minus my y-intercept, so minus 12. So that's actually the slope of the line that has a, or the equation of a line that has a slope of 3 and passes through the point 9, 15. All right, the next one says, just to read the instructions, it says given an equation and a point, find the equation either parallel or perpendicular, so whichever one it asked me to do. This one asked me to do the parallel line, which is nice because then I know my slope is going to be the same. So my slope's going to be 5. So again, I like to go y equals mx plus b, and I like to substitute my stuff in. They gave me an x and a y, they gave me my m. So I'm going to go 6 equals 5 times 2 plus b, solve it for b. So 6 equals 10 plus b, subtract that 10 over to the other side, and I get my b value as negative 4. So then all I have to do is rewrite my line again. So it's y equals my slope, which is 5x, because it was a parallel line, which we knew we had that same slope, and then my b value, which is a minus 4. So this is my equation of my line that's parallel to this line that goes through this point. All right, same again, parallel, so I know I get to use this slope. I love it when they give me the slope. So my slope, my m value there is 2/3. Here's my x, here's my y. So y equals mx plus b. I'm just substituting into that. I go negative 3 equals 2/3 times 3 plus b. And I'm just going to punch this in my calculator right here. 2/3 times 3 is actually 2. So I'm going to minus that 2 to the other side. When I do that, I get b equals a negative 5. So I'm now just going to plug back into my equation. It's my slope, which is 2/3, plus my b value, which is minus 5. So there's my equation of my line that's parallel to this line through that point. All right, this time we're going perpendicular to this slope. So if my slope is 2, And I have to flip that upside down and change the sign on it. So the slope I'm going to use is going to be a negative 1/2. So y equals mx plus b. And I'm going to go negative 1/2. Oh, I forgot to put in my y. What am I doing? My y is 1. There's my m. Here's my x plus b. So 1 equals negative 2 when I punch that in my calculator, plus b. Add the 2 to the other side. So b equals 3. My equation is going to be y equals, my slope has to be negative 1/2 x, and then plus 3 for my equation that's perpendicular to the information that was given to me. All right, one last problem here. Again, perpendicular. So we're going perpendicular to this slope, which means I flip it upside down and change the sign. So my slope's going to be 3/2. So I'm going y equals mx plus b. They give me my x, they give me my y. So negative 6 equals 3/2 times 12 plus b. I'm going to do 3/2 times 12, which is 18. I'm going to minus that 18 to the other side. I get a negative 24. So my equation is going to use my new slope, which is 3/2, and then it will be minus 24. Now, it seems like the interesting thing on all these problems that I did today was that I always had a minus sign right here on my examples. You guys, it's okay to have a plus sign there. If the number's positive, it's going to be plus. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're going through. If you have questions today on what I've done, come back up and talk to me, and good luck on your homework. Thanks for watching, guys.